charges on pages 69 to 76. Pardon?
We've had a lot of excitement over this today.
Well, we only get the good stuff. The recommendation is on tonight that we look at the options on Appendix 1 and resolve accordingly with any changes from 1st of January 2024. Before I move that, I'll allow a discussion, then we'll make a recommendation in accordance with the preference for the options. Do you want to start on this, Councillor Marshall?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. This isn't a new issue, and has been an issue that's been discussed almost at every budget time of the year since I've been a councillor, and I think the report itself seeks to strike a balance between the function of hugely reduced resources to local government, cuts to granting aid and cuts to grants to Broxtowe as an authority. It tries to balance the ambition that we have as an authority. It tries to kind of create a path really that helps support something that I'm particularly proud of, which is the fact that whenever I've been part of a Labour administration or a Labour-led administration at this authority, we've never had to either cut any jobs or reduce services at an authority, and all of that, of course, comes at a price. So we find ourselves in a situation where we're seeking to kind of bridge that gap, and you already heard the leader talk about another council seeking or likely to seek a Section 114 notice, and the parlous state of authorities of every colour up and down the country, and we're not in that position. And I think that's because of strategies that we've taken in the past, responsible with decisions we've taken at the time, and the ability to clearly articulate the reasons why we're taking action. So before us tonight is a report which presents a series of options which we've tried to maximise income in proposals to help us bridge those gaps and do those things that we want to do. That might include helping to underpin the costs of new leisure facilities and new leisure centres in the authority. It might help underpin other services, and to do that with a minimum of impact on people who use our car parks around the borough, and indeed any knock-on implications to traders and businesses across Broxtowe. And when I was talking to just a kind of like a qualitative / anecdotal level, when I was talking to several traders, actually in Beeston Town Centre, about this, and indeed from personal experience, we have a situation where we have a 1 hour free, which is quite heavily utilised within the authority. But you kind of come in and you spend 5 or 10 minutes looking for your car parking spot, and you manage to get one, and then you realise as you're going to drop your check off at the bank or something, there's a big long queue because it's lunchtime, and all of a sudden you needed to rush down to the other end of Beeston to buy your mum a Mother's Day card and that kind of stuff, and all of a sudden you're up against it and panicking that you ain't got enough time in your 1 hour free slot that you're going to get done with a ticket. So what these proposals try and hopefully do, certainly option 2, is to try and bridge that gap and allow us to create turnover within our towns at a minimal cost implication to individuals, which help them balance and satisfy the needs of traders and businesses. So when you wrap all of that up together, Chair, you see us developing proposing to introduce a responsible strategy which helps meet some of the financial pressures that we've got, helps satisfy the needs of our traders, helps us give a nod to trying to minimise car usage in our town centres and try and shift some of that need perhaps to public transport as well. And in that sense, I'm really pleased to support the recommendation on the top of page 69. I hope there's a positive discussion around it, and I look forward to us landing on an item which helps meet some of those problems. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you very much, sir. We're joined by Sue Rudden now, officer responsible for car parking, who would like to say a few words. Over to you.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Just picking up on what Councillor Marshall has said, the report does set out various options which would generate income. We're putting together at the moment a programme to upgrade the car parking pay and display machines. I think there are 27 of those, and they're currently at 13 years out of their 15-year life expectancy. And the upgrades would still allow people to pay by card, by app, and also by cash. There are also a number of car parks throughout the borough which need to be resurfaced and also have the lines marked out again. And obviously any income generated through the introduction of charges would be used to offset the cost of that, and then, you know, again, reduce the burden on the council's general fund.
Okay, thank you very much. We seem to have lost you. Okay, sorry, we'll move on. Yeah, so are you proposing option 2?
I support option 2. I was interested whether there was going to be a wider discussion, Chair, and then we'll land on it. I support option 2 as a starting position, Chair.
Yeah, thank you very much for that. Yeah, the concern that I have with option 2, and this has been raised with me today by several members, is the electric vehicle parking. There is concern that continues to be free, and it's almost as though we are discriminating against petrol cars. No, and so we'd introduce the charging for electric vehicles as well. I understand that an average cost to recharge a car almost flat is certainly over £20, and therefore we think it would be more appropriate, if we did go for option 2, that electric vehicles should pay. And the other point that's been raised on numerous occasions with me is visitors paying £15 for all-day parking, which I also find a little bit over the top, charge-wise.
Through you, Chair, one of the reasons for that is, particularly in Beeston, being so close to the city and the tram, we don't want the potential use of a park and rides service, and Beeston becomes a park and ride location. So that is, while the other charges allow people to stay much longer and enjoy the town centre and enjoy the evening economy, if someone was to leave it for the full day, then that's a consideration.
Okay. I'm quite happy to leave it. I'm just saying that it has been raised with me on 7 occasions, the cost. But I say the concern that I do have is that electric vehicles should be charged, and of course blue badge holders will continue to be exempt from any car parking charges. And just before anybody else comments, we're having this discussion, there are something like 4 free car parks in Broxtowe, which not intending to start charging on those, but mostly located in Kimberley. They are small, but also one in Eastwood, which is, I think it's about 12 spaces on Alexander Street. That will continue to be free. So there will be some free parking for most of the day, and consequently we're not proposing any changes to that. No. So they will remain free. Okay, so if we propose option 2 with those appropriate amendments, then we can start to discuss it. I will move that option 2 with those appropriate amendments from the Chair.
I support those amendments, and I support option 2, Chair.
Right, so that's moved and seconded. Right, questions or comments on option 2 with the amendments that were suggested? Go on, Councillor Owen.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. It would have been useful if you'd have come with an actual recommendation in the committee papers, because clearly that is what you were always intending to do, and then we could have focused in on that. If I've read this correctly, there is now going to be no option of a 1-hour free parking at all. That is being removed completely. And I'd like some explanation of the figures on page 69. Paragraph 3, the second bullet point, we talk about a net deficit of £39,000 to be met from the general fund, which, whilst it's not an insignificant amount of money, it's not a vast amount of money to support parking in particularly our town centres. If you put that 39,000 onto the 294,000, that's up 330 odd thousand. Yet if we look at option 2, it says an additional income. Your proposals will provide an additional income of approximately £284,000, which is almost as much as the total cost according to bullet point 2, but I may well have misread that. I think to suggest that there will only be a reduction of 5% in car park usage is somewhat naive, because motorists notoriously will look to park on streets. They don't want to pay, and understandably so, and this to me is an attack yet again on the motorist. And I think that's unfortunate, and you are killing or trying to kill the goose that to some extent is laying the golden egg, because you talk about an improved nighttime economy in Beeston. Well, one way to knock it on the head is to charge for car parking, and that is what will happen. So I have grave concerns about this and would ask you to think again.
Yeah, thank you very much for that. Councillor Pauline Smith and then Councillor Vanessa Smith.
Thank you. My query, I suppose, and I may have misread the table somewhat, is that if we are charging up to 10 p.m, then we're charging for a different sort of parking. This is not shopping, this is evening entertainment. And I'm kind of thinking, if you want to go to the cinema and then have something to eat, 3 hours, not quite enough. And are we suddenly charging people £15 for their evening's entertainment?
Yeah, that's
And
why
I have a bit of a concern about that step.
That's my concern about us charging £15. Exactly that reason.
You could, of course, have a different evening tariff.
Yes.
Which I would suggest would be that perhaps after a certain time, then up until 10 p.m, it's still £3 or something, or whatever it is, £2.
Okay, we'll take that on board. That will be considered. Councillor Vanessa Smith.
Thank you, Chair. I think it isn't, I think charging a little bit more for parking is probably a good idea. And if we think about it from an environmental point of view, we do want to be encouraging people to bring their cars into places like Beeston less and to use public transport more. And I think this would go some way to doing that. I understand the concerns about shifting the problem onto on-street parking, but I do think it's a step in the right direction. And we're talking about for the majority of people going from a few hours free to a few pounds for a few hours. That will cause problems for some people, but I think for the vast majority of motorists, it won't. And so I would support introducing those charges.
Thank you very much. And so I want to point out that the 4 car parks that are free will still remain free in the borough. I've got, do you want to come back on that point, and then I'll come over to Ross and then to, I've got his name then, Sean. Sorry, Sean.
Yes, through you, Chair. There's a couple of points there. In terms of the £39,000 deficit that was mentioned by Councillor Owen, the head of administrative service mentioned that in addition to that, we've got some significant charges coming in over the next few years in terms of upgrading infrastructure and the cost of maintaining what we have, which isn't covered and would hit the general fund if we didn't raise additional income. So that's one point. In terms of the 5%, that's based on our experience of previous price rises. So we've just based it on our learning in the past. It may be different this time, but that's our learning in the past, a 5% increase. And in terms of the point that the other councillor mentioned with regard to perhaps having an additional charge, perhaps members could consider the charge in option 4, which is visitors paying £3 for up to 6 hours, could be added to option 2.
Yeah, I think we ought to do that. That's something I think we should do. Okay, I'll go to Councillor Osboffinger and then to Sean.
And especially now with that news that there's other charges coming along, I think it's good that we review the parking arrangements and increase the prices so that we're not putting a greater burden on people that don't have a car or don't want to drive their car and would have to pay it through their council tax. I think that's really good. I think it's good to encourage people to use other means if they can. And I can see that in some towns, in Beeston, there is an option still for free parking because they can use the car park at Tesco or Sainsbury's. In Kimberley,
you do pay there, but you're allowed up to
3 hours free.
Yes, and then you pay.
So, but I mean, we've only allowed 1 hour free up to an hour, so they can get 3 hours free. In Kimberley, there's the option of free parking, which is most of the shops are accessible from the Sainsbury's car park. I think in Stapleford, where a lot of businesses, like in many other places, are struggling, I think losing any free parking might well be the final death knell for some businesses. And I think it'd be really good if we could continue to have free car parking in Stapleford, because there is nowhere else that they can park for free other than going onto the roads. I think Eastwood, I'm not an Eastwood councillor, but I think Eastwood's probably another case in point where there isn't an alternative free parking. So is that going to make it too divisive, making it different in different areas? I would hope that we could do that.
Alexander Street in Eastwood is a free car park.
Right.
In second, there are 3 small car parks, 2 small in Kimberley.
So, but I mean, in Stapleford there isn't a free car park.
Yeah, we'll have a look at that first.
And there isn't. There's Aldi, which is quite a way out from the shops, and I don't think people would park in Aldi. I don't think Aldi would like people parking in there. I think they would do something about it if people were parking in there and then walking into the other shops, into the cafes and restaurants.
Yeah, sorry, before I go to Sean,
Yes, Chair, through you. On page 69, in the first paragraph, it actually, under section 3, it actually highlights that there is a number of car parks that are free on Saturday. And at Hall, it's the second paragraph, Hall Road, Stapleford, that's free on a Saturday.
yes. Yeah, so on there is some free parking in Stapleford on weekends, on Saturday. So
I've lived there for 40 years. I didn't know that.
you see, it's worth coming to Cabinet just to learn that you get free parking on Saturday in Stapleford. Sean, do you want to? And then Councillor.
Thank you, through you, Chair. My concern with option 2 is there's 5 different charges, which all of a sudden, a lot of things we've been saying about people wandering off, coming back, it compounds that issue. I don't quite understand why we've got a visitor paying £1 for up to 2 hours and a visitor paying £1 all day. Surely a simple charge, which my option would be option 3, £1 up to 3 hours, £3 all day, up to 10 PM, makes it nice and simple for people. They know where they are. They have the 3 hours if they want. If they want to stay longer, it's only costing them a couple of quid more. To me, the more options we put in, the more complicated it becomes.
Okay.
Administration is an additional complication, Councillor, through you, Chair. The options that are outlined in option 2 do seem a little bit difficult, but it depends on the car park.
Yes, it does.
Yeah, so it depends on where you're located within the borough, and the charges for that car park will be clearly displayed.
Yeah. I say there are quite a few car parks. I don't know how many there are actually who do free at weekend. 4 car parks who do free parking at weekend on a Saturday, and so for us. The change is really about helping to raise funds to improve the services that we've got. I mean, you've all seen the news today about electric vehicle charging points, for instance. and the demand that will go up in the next 5 years. The government's talking about wanting 300,000. Currently there's something like 59,000 across the country, which is a 5-fold increase in charging points. That investment in infrastructure needs to be paid for and needs to be recognised. Of course, there's a much more interesting question about electric vehicles, but I'll ask that at a future time. I want to bring this to a conclusion very soon. Do you want to come back on that point?
Yes, thank you, Chair. If you do that. The quick question is something that's been in the media as well recently. Is how we're paying for these? As in, are we? Is it going to be coin operated, or is it going to be card operated, or is it going to be one of these apps you have to phone up and download?
It's all three. You can either pay cash, you can pay by card, or you can pay by app. There are
Any option?
any way, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Is that correct, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yep. Councillor McGrath, and then
Just a quick one, Millen, and just a quick one that I might suggest, even though I am from Stapleford, the Halls Road car park is out of the way of the town. I would probably put a proposal that we have Cliff Hill car park, which is at the centre of the town, free on a Saturday, which then gives you more options. As Ross said, Aldi, the High Street, because Halls Road, unfortunately, at the other end of the town, where there's only a couple of shops.
but the idea is to use that car park free to attract footfall into the other shops in a particular part
But
of
there's
the
no
town.
there, Millen. That's what I'm trying to say.
There's nothing there.
No, but there's no shops there anyway. What I'm trying to say, if it was at the car park in the centre of the town, it gives you more options. The main bus routes go through, so they can get off there. Halls Road is 18 spaces. Cliff Hill's bigger. That's all I'm saying. Just a suggestion.
Okay. Councillor Richard, and then we'll bring this to a close very shortly.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, I get what Councillor McGrath's coming from there, and I'd say we've got a new car park being built in Stapleford at some point in the next 1,000 years. When it finally gets built, I think that one would have been a nice one to have been free at the weekend, because we're going to lose Victoria Street car park. So we're going to lose Victoria Street car park, which is quite controversial if you read the comments on social media. And the new one's going to be built, which is a little bit further down. On the length of the high street, I'd say it's pretty central-ish. And like you say, there's businesses, we've got a, you know, the high street's just weird the way it is. It's quite long, isn't it? So I think the new car park that's being built, has that been considered at the minute? And I think that one would be a good one to be free at the weekend. The worry with Cliff Hill is, you know, it's a good car park, it's quite popular. I wouldn't want to see people parking on there, then jumping on a bus and shooting off to town, because that does happen, even though at the minute people pay £1 all day. I think a lot of people are happy with that. But I do think the new car park being built, which is on Derby Road, I think that one would be a good one if we could have one that was free and just move it round from Halls Road, because it's going to be a better car park. Thank you.
Members just need to be minded when they make the decision, the cost of a brand new car park, the infrastructure, the white lining, the tarmacking, all the arrangements that have to go into maintaining those car parks moving forward.
Yeah, thanks very much. I mean, on social media, COVID showed us that everybody who reads social media is now a world expert on virology, and I've just seen, you know, social media, everybody's an expert on planning, and following tonight's meeting, I suppose everybody on Facebook will become an expert on car parking in local government finance. But that's the price we pay for freedom. So go Greg Marshall and then Councillor Helen Fascio.
Yeah, I'm pleased that we're kind of like, it's been a good discussion. I'm pleased we're landing on option 2 with the EV charge being brought in, and the kind of like that £3 for 6 hours option being brought in. I think that's a really balanced proposal, really, and I think what we don't want to do is then undermine by at this stage bringing in a range of free parking in town centre, which could undermine the whole kind of strategy, really. So the good news being, of course, is this has been a discussion which we can bring back if needed on review. We can both see how things are going, we can listen to town centres, we can listen to communities, and we can review it in the future. So I'm glad we've landed on that option with those amendment proposals. The question I've got, though, is can you just outline to us, please, Mr. Powell, how we just let people kind of know, and what kind of signs we put up to tell everyone this is coming, so we don't sting anybody and there's a bit of transition time?
So the proposal in the report suggests that we don't start this until after the Christmas break, so 1st of January. So that's number one. Number two, if members are minded to decide on option 2 with those amendments, the head of administrative services and myself will be working with the communications team to develop a communications plan, which we will launch fairly quickly after this meeting once the cool-off period is finished. Obviously in every car park, all of the signage will need to be changed. I think we've put £7,000 to £15,000 in the budget to achieve that work, so the signage will be extremely clear in each car park.
Thank you very much for that. Helen?
I just wanted to draw attention to the last bit on page 75 where it says members may be minded to ask officers to look at ways to mitigate the big increase in the all-day charges to £15 a day by bringing in permits for people who can provide proof of working in Beeston. I just wondered whether that might, there's not many people who it's estimated would be paying £15 a day, but if some people have been working in Beeston and paying £3 a day and suddenly going to be hit with a £15 a day, if there was some kind of permit scheme that could reduce that, might help.
Okay. Yeah, that points.
Through you, Chair, if members are minded, we are happy to look into that and consider the proposals.
Right. Any further questions or comments? If not, a recommendation to option 2 with the appropriate amendments that electric vehicle charging is brought in and it's no longer free. So those 4 car parks that are free remain free, and that we will amend the visitors paying £15 for the evening parking for, can we do 5 till 10? Or is it 6 till 10?
Chair, I think the proposal was to charge £3 for 6 hours.
Right, £3 for 6 hours, sorry. I put £3 for and then I hadn't quite got the last bit in, right. So it'll be £3 for 6 hours.
Free for disabled.
And free for disabled stuff, okay. And those car parks that remain free on a Saturday will remain free on a Saturday. Okay? So with
Chair,
that,
was there an extra recommendation for further consideration in the future for mitigating the £15 charge for people working in Beeston?
yes, through a permit scheme. I was going to add that on afterwards, yes. Through a permit scheme. Okay, the recommendation therefore is moved and seconded. All those in favour? Against? Abstentions? 1 abstention.